What is good, everyone? It's John Manson here on this Tuesday night with the ASOR Red Podcast. We're going to be talking some Liberty football, look back at the win over FIU in overtime, and look ahead to Kennesaw State game next Wednesday night. My normal co-host, Richie Longshots, is he was a game time decision. It appears he's out right now. Maybe he'll make a second half appearance. We'll see how it goes, but CT is with us. CT, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Glad the Flames are 5-0. I'm glad to be here. So thanks for having me as always.
Yeah, man. Talking about 5-0, we'll jump right into it. Got the win last week. Feels like it's been more than a week ago, but a week ago right now, Liberty was taking on the FIU Pitbull Panthers at Williams Stadium, and as you can see, their final in overtime, 31-24. Liberty got out to a 2-touchdown lead about midway through the fourth quarter, and it felt like actually, if you even back up before that, they led by a touchdown at halftime, got the turnover to start the second half, drove down to the 1. Cooley fumbled on the 1, but it looked like the Liberty was about to go in, punch it in, and go up by 2 scores and take control of the game. They did eventually go up by the 2 scores. Midway through the fourth quarter, but the Panthers came back, scored to tie it up, and then Liberty kind of walked their way, I guess is a fair way of saying it, through the rest of the fourth quarter until the game went into overtime.
I'll say right away, and I definitely have concerns from the game, which we'll talk about. But one, we're 5-0. We still got the win, and there's so many teams out there in the world of college football that do not win these close games. You take a look at a team like USC this year that they'd probably say they're 3 plays away from 6-0, but they're 3-3 instead. And so our coaching staff has showed time after time that even if we're not covering the spread or playing maybe more to the opponent's level or letting them look a little better, that we still find ways to win. So that's really exciting just to be here 5-0. I will say as well that honestly, this game, felt reminiscent to me of the Sam Houston game last year. While it's frustrating that we still don't feel like we've seen a full performance of what this team can do, I still think that a performance like this against a struggling FIU team is more a blip on the radar and just a weird midweek game kind of thing, as opposed to the standard of actually what our team's quality is, just like that same Houston game last year.
No, I agree. And I did think about that during the game last week. And the good news is a touchdown for FIU, which ended up happening, was going to tie the game as opposed to basically losing the game with no time left, which would have happened against Sam Houston. But it's a stand. But if you're watching the podcast, and if not, why not? Going over to we're live tonight, Tuesday night, as we are every night, every week. We go live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. But you can always go back and watch the replay of the show if you're listening to it currently. And we've got graphics and video and things like that. But you can go to youtube.com/ASORRed. Be sure to subscribe there while you're there. But you can see we got Coach Mike McIntyre from the Panthers, not an analytics guy. I don't understand why he didn't go for 2. I was thinking about it when they scored. It was 24-10. They went down and scored, late fourth quarter to cut it to what would become 7. But a lot of times teams nowadays, when they're down 14 and they score that first touchdown in the fourth quarter, they'll go ahead and go for 2. So you can try to win the game in regulation if you have the opportunity. And I was thinking about it then, like, should you go for 2? They did not. They kicked the extra point, and then they got the ball back, went down and scored again. And again, I'm thinking, go for two. It was less than 2 minutes to play. You're playing with house money. You're a 17 to 19 point favorite or underdog on the road against a team that hasn't lost at home in multiple years, a team that hasn't lost in Conference USA ever as a conference member.
That's crazy to think about as well.
Why not go for the jugular and try to get the lead and eventually the win there? He did say in the post game that they were planning on going for two in overtime, but that was too late, obviously, at that point in time. But yeah, it was kind of interesting that they didn't do that. Any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I completely agree. And to me, it really doesn't make sense. If you're saying you were going to go for two in overtime, what's the difference between then and the end of regulation? Like, to me, that's exactly the same thing. Like, you could say that score was the start of overtime in a way, and they had possession first. And you could say that in a way. So I don't know what the difference in his mind would be in those two situations. So very questionable there. I mean, I think it's something that, and this is a discussion among plenty of people, but I mean, I'm definitely would say I'm of the philosophy, if you're a big underdog on the road, you have a chance like that to win, you take that every time. So I'm surprised he didn't, but to each their own. And one thing I do want to give him credit for, and really to shout out to the whole FIU team, is something that after the game you actually tweeted about, and it went pretty big. But I don't know if you want to hit on that real quick.
No, it's pretty cool. I listened back to his post-game press conference. The Liberty SID staff sent over to me after the game, and he talked about how it was a really big week for them overall, and they had was it 20? I think it was 20 players that
it was 30.
30 players. Yeah. Thanks for correcting me. 30 players that accepted Christ the Sunday before the game. They had a team meeting and had a special speaker. I was unable to verify who the speaker was. I think it was one of their current players on the team. He spoke and at this team meeting, and like I said, they had about 30 guys accept Christ. So I mean, that's a third of your football team. So that's quite amazing. And so awesome for them. Coach McIntyre, his dad actually was on staff at Liberty back in the day, maybe in the 90s, I think it was, for a couple of years as a running backs coach. So good for them. But that's enough about FIU. I think looking at Liberty and what we've seen from them in the first 5 games so far is, first of all, I think there's a few things at play. Number one is the season has been so inconsistent from a schedule standpoint. I mean, you've had 2 weather delays, another game that didn't start until almost 11 p.m. Eastern time, out in New Mexico. You had another game canceled, so you had a 17-day layoff, and now we're in the midst of a 15-day layoff. So just a 1 game in 32 days, as we've talked about before. So I think that plays in part also into the team's inconsistent play so far this year. And then also there's been a lot of injuries. We probably haven't given that enough play as far as the injuries. There's just been a continual rotation of people in and out on both sides of the ball, and that's led to some inconsistency as well too. So, but having said that, I'm not trying to use those as excuses, because they're certainly not. But I think one thing Liberty's got to learn to do as they kind of turn it into that second half of the year is to play like they have their backs against the wall from the open off, because they've been really good with their backs against the wall. I mean, look at the New Mexico State game when they were down 17-3 going into the fourth quarter, and then East Carolina 17-0 there late second quarter, and FIU going into overtime. You had after FIU scored that touchdown to make it 24-17, Liberty got the ball back with 5 or 6 minutes left, and you're sitting here thinking, okay, we can put this game away. Give it to your guy Cooley, who's been cooking. Pick up a couple first downs, melt this clock away. It's something we saw all last year, and the first down play was a short out pass. Salter overthrew his receiver. Second down play, he fumbled the snap, and then third down was a pass, and it was incomplete, and you had to punt 3 and out, and like 40 seconds goes off the clock, and you're sitting there thinking, what are we doing? So again, I think if the team, they need to come out like they got their backs against the wall from the opening kickoff, and I'm hoping that's something they'll be able to do next Wednesday night against Kennesaw State.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. I think it. Hopefully, that's the case. I feel like it could maybe take another week getting back into a normal schedule. I think there could honestly be some rust there again, and I think that could have been the case this week too. Just a little bit rusty after such a delay or just a break in between games. But regardless, I completely agree with what you're saying. This team has the talent to, especially in the majority of conference play, to dominate teams. And
Sure.
ultimately, that just hasn't been happening in the same way, especially as compared to last year. And while it is a lot of the same team, we probably shouldn't compare between last year and this year too much, but it's still good to look at. So it's something that we know this team has more gears in them, and not even just one, probably a couple more gears. And it's something that we just haven't seen yet. I thought it was interesting as well for me. They're watching towards the end of the game, and it just felt like the whole team was kind of operating under playing not to lose instead of trying to win, and trying to go out there and be aggressive and not they're almost letting themselves be the hunted. We know every team is going to give us their best shot because of our undefeated conference record going on 2 years and everything else. But it seems like at times we're content to let that happen rather than fighting back ourselves and really asserting our dominance. And so that almost caused us to lose this game, and it's caused us to have to really have our backs against the wall in a couple other games.
Yeah, I agree. Not to compare FBS football to JV volleyball, but my daughter plays volleyball, and she was on a team last year that the JV team went undefeated, they don't play for a state championship, won their division championship or whatever it was, 20-0 or whatever, went undefeated. Well, this year they had a lot of the players back, and they had a really good season, high expectations. They were talking about going undefeated when they were practicing back in August before the season started. I remember hearing her talking about it, and I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, it's kind of odd to be talking about going undefeated. Let's talk about winning our next game, getting better. Well, they played like they were trying to go undefeated in game 2, game 3, game 4, and there was games that they should have won by a lot of points or whatever, and they might have lost a set here, or played a lot closer than they should have, fallen behind, and they were just playing with that weight on their shoulders of we're playing to go undefeated. We're not playing to win this game. We're playing to go undefeated because that's the expectation, and it showed in their play. So I think Liberty's dealt with that a little bit this year, is they know what the outside noise is. They know what the expectations are. They know what the pressure is, and they're trying to be perfect. And hopefully they can relax a little bit. And as we get into a more of a routine schedule, hopefully the last half of the year when they're playing week in, week out, they'll be good to go. But let's move it forward. Talk quickly before we get into our next segment. Conference USA. Here's a updated Conference USA standings. Obviously, Liberty's at the top right now at 3-0 in conference play and undefeated overall. A couple other teams that are unbeaten: Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, and Jack State at 2-0. Now we say this with 2 Conference USA games going on tonight. One that's already started. That's Kennesaw State. And we'll talk about them more in a few minutes. But CT, what are your thoughts about Conference USA? What have we learned, in your opinion, about this league so far this season?
Totally. I would say first thing that stands out right off the bat, I think initially we said, okay, this is going to be a 3-team race. And that still is very much the case, but I think it has become a 4-team race in a way. And then you look at the bottom 6, and it's a very large drop off to the bottom 6. And so I think these top 4 teams, we could probably see their only losses being against each other for the most part, barring a slip up here or there, and that's really going to determine who's actually in the conference championship. I would say as well, now that it's a 4-team race, that means it's even less guaranteed that we're there. That's another team that we have to show up against. And looking at it, we still have to face all three of them: Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, and Jack State. So anything is possible. Jack State is really interesting as well, because they did not look good to start the season. We kind of wrote them off. They finally figured out their quarterback, and they are rolling now, and they're scoring 50 plus every single game under this offense. They finally found a guy that fits the system really well. So even though they're 3-3 overall, do not write them off, because they could easily continue to win conference game after conference game.
Yeah, Jack State is a team that myself, like I'm sure many of you others listening as well, did. That Thursday night of week 1, I had that game circled. Jack State and Coastal Carolina was one I wanted to watch, and they just got embarrassed 55-27. Probably wasn't that close. And then, you kind of, as the season gets going, you're focusing on Liberty and some of the other teams are playing, and you see Jack State's 0-3, and you're thinking, man, they're just not a good team this year. Well, that's not the case. Like you said, they've made a change at quarterback, and they're rolling right now. They've won 3 straight and scored 54 points against New Mexico State, won 54-13, beat Kennesaw State 63-24, Southern Miss 44-7. Now, those 3 teams are not good teams by any stretch of the imagination, but for a team like Jack State, who kind of got embarrassed on national TV to open the season, they've obviously turned the page, and they're definitely right in that mix, like you said. And Sam Houston and Western Kentucky, they play Wednesday night. That's a game down in Texas, so that's a big game. Looking forward to that. And I think it's going to be a really fun conference race. I think all 4 of those teams still have to play each other, like you were talking about, and Liberty's got to play all 3 of them. Western Kentucky and Sam Houston in back-to-back weeks at the end of the regular season. So it should be a fun race. And I'm not sure, hopefully Liberty does, but I'm not sure anybody goes unbeaten in conference play this year. So you could be looking – Sam Houston, I think, is still the team that's out there. If you're not talking about Liberty, that's the team to beat. Those are probably the top 2 teams. Interesting, they play that Black Friday, the last weekend of the regular season, and that could be just to set up who's playing at home in the conference championship game a week later. But long way to go, obviously, and a couple more weeks of some midweek action on in Conference USA. Any final thoughts on Conference USA there, CT, before we kick it over to Jason Porter?
No, I mean, like you said, it's going to be a race. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be really interesting, as you said as well, to have those last 2 games against Western Kentucky and Sam Houston. So one game at a time, but we'll definitely be looking ahead to those and seeing, that could affect will we be in the conference championship game or not. So,
yeah, definitely. All right, let's hear this quick ad break, and then we'll come right back with Jason Porter.
Hey, Flames Nation, this is Kyle Rode.
This is Rachel Root.
This is Kato Salter.
We would just want to say thank you for supporting athletes like us through the Flames Rising Collective.
The Flames Rising Collective is a registered 501c3, providing opportunities for student athletes to use their name, image, and likeness while serving our local community.
100% of everything contributed to the collective will go directly to creating name, image, and likeness opportunities for Liberty student athletes.
Help us be champions for Christ and champions on the field. Flames.
Mr. Jason Porter, how you doing this evening?
Hey, John, I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. What you been doing with all your time off?
I'm so out of whack right now. In full disclosure, I mean, I was doing the math here, trying to figure out where we're at with everything. But 2 games in 32 days, or whatever it is. I mean, it's very very uncharacteristic. But just been working hard and getting ready for Kennesaw next week.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely been a weird last couple of weeks. Really going on a full month. Just. I remember thinking, what day is today? Oh yeah, we got a podcast today and all this thing. It's just been crazy. And but we've seen the Flames get out to 5-0, and it's been a little up and down to get to this point. But but they're here. You've been following the team obviously closely from the radio booth next to Alan York all the way. So tell us about some of your, as we're kind of in this bye week, what's your midseason takeaways of the Flames?
Yeah, I think the initial thought, John, is kind of like you and CT were just talking a minute ago. There's been some slow starts offensively for sure, and we've seen those great halftime adjustments that Coach Chadwell and the staff are so good at making and doing, and the guys have come out in a kind of a different mindset, I think, in the second half for sure. But I think we talked about it last podcast maybe, but I think one of the biggest challenges really are some of these days off. We'll talk to the guys about that too, because I mean we can kind of hypothesize and bloviate a little bit about it, but they're behind the curtain obviously day to day. But you even think about some of the things that we saw mistake-wise during the FIU game. It was almost like first game nerves or just timing or things along those lines, where there were some mistakes and penalties in those situations that really had been ironed out, I think, for the most part, going into what would have been the App State game, of course. So it'll be interesting again to see how the bye week just happens to hit right now too. So we're back to, like I said, that 2 games in 32 days kind of thing. But interesting to see how the guys respond down in Kennesaw next Wednesday.
Yeah, it should be a game that, again, Kennesaw State's playing right now. They were up 2-0 when I jumped on the podcast. It was a safety that they had gotten against Middle Tennessee. But, obviously Kennesaw, they're 0-5, kind of on the other side of things from where Liberty's at, and had a struggle to start conference play and lost to UT Martin, an FCS team. But this is a team, Coach Brian Bohannon has been their only head coach. They've had their entire program history. They had a lot of success at the FCS level. Liberty obviously got a firsthand up and close view of the Owls as they kind of built that program from nothing to what it was, where they were really, the top team in the Big South after Liberty left, and an FCS, playoff contender most years. It'll probably, similar to Jacksonville State, maybe even Sam Houston, where Sam Houston came in last year and struggled a little bit. But then now they're rolling this year. And then Jack State, they quickly were able to adjust to this level.
Right.
Do you think that's something that Kennesaw State will be able to do, is to, maybe take their lumps this year, but before too long, that they should be able to get this thing turned around, don't you think?
Yeah, I really do, and I think they're, they are taking some hits here early on, which is understandable with the new program. But facility-wise, we were down there. I can't remember exactly what year it was, John, but when it was Big South days, I think we were down playing at Kennesaw, and they had a newer stadium then. But they've got good resources, and I think we're going to be able to build on that program and just get better through the years. And this is one of those games I've never really liked the idea of the trap game kind of thing mentally, but kind of harkening back to what we talked about to open the segment here. There's just a lot of extrinsics going on that none of us would have seen really coming into this week, with the exception of the bye week. So you'd like to think that the guys are mature and focused, and I think they are going into this. But again, as you and CT alluded to also, Liberty gets everyone's best shots, right? So I mean, there's going to be that side of it too, where they're going to be well scouted, or Liberty will be well scouted, well prepared. And so I think it's one of those games that you want to come out, step your foot on the gas quick, and stay on them, and hopefully get back up out of Atlanta with a win.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's definitely one of those, you talk about Kennesaw State, currently winless at the time we're recording this, but,
scary.
Yeah, it is. If they,
yeah.
they'll have nothing to lose against Liberty. I'm sure they'll do everything they can to get a nice atmosphere down there, and give the Flames their best shot. They're obviously not coming off the bye week, but, they can look at this game and say, hey, if we can get a win here, it kind of points that we're moving in the right direction, and can kind of make our season. I mean, we're not playing for a bowl game anyways because we're ineligible, but if they can pull out a win over the Flames, they could certainly get things moving in the right direction. So really hoping, during this bye week, I'm sure the coaching staff, Coach Chadwell and his staff, have been doing a lot of self-scout. JP, what are some things that you think they are probably addressing, and I also, from a health standpoint, with your background, how much can this extra time off help those guys get back closer to being 100%?
Yeah, I think that's the absolute intangible, and the natural former athletic trainer, sports medicine brain that I've got. That's the first place I go when you've got the bye weeks. I mean, you circle those on the calendar during camp, literally, because you're just thinking about who may be on the IR, so to speak. And so in this case, I think the rest has helped some of the guys who have been dinged up. And I know Coach Chadwell obviously addresses those injuries and will continue to keep us updated on those kind of things. But man, that makes a huge difference. And so especially to be at week 6 or 7 here coming into this when you've had some time off and some of these guys who have been nursing some injuries have a chance to come back full strength. I don't think that can be underestimated for sure. But, I do think, again, you start looking through some of the statistics on paper, and I'm still, in full disclosure, kind of an early prep with some of this, but just Liberty at about 33 points a game and Kennesaw at about 14 points a game. There's a lot on paper that says that it should be lopsided, and certainly the analytics and all the other things that we, in theory, pay attention to. But I do think this is just going to be one of those games where, again, LU's going to have to come out ready to go, especially on the road, and it's going to be an intense environment after a couple of weeks off here.
Well, JP, when we opened this segment, I kind of jokingly asked, "What have you been doing with all your time off?" But I think we know what you've been doing with all your time off. Your day job, I'm sure, keeps you busy with your real estate needs. And one thing I was curious about: repair requests, inspection reports. Those can sometimes be I don't know if red flags the right way to call them, but alarm bells can go off in either a seller or a buyer's mind. What are some of the things that we need to look out for when we're approaching any type of deal? And are these things that could kill a deal?
Yeah, to just jump to the end of the question, yeah. Unfortunately, repairs, addendums, and repair requests can kill a deal, and so you've got to be aware of something like that. And so, really, what we're talking about, John, is as buyers and sellers come together, buyers almost always want to do a home inspection. I always recommend that, unless my buyers have some, Class A contractor background kind of a thing. But it's always a good way to vet the property that they're buying. It's a major investment, obviously, and so you get that inspection report back, and maybe there's 10 items on that inspection report that you wanted to go back to the sellers and say, hey, we'd like for you to fix these particular items. And so you kind of have that stage 2 of negotiation, truly, and it's really the next fork in the road once everything's been negotiated. So it's important to get those negotiations worked on and work on those particular repairs, addendums, and really as part of the contract, if the buyer and seller can't come to terms on the repair requests and the repairs to be made, the buyer can indeed walk away. That gets into some other issues, of course, which I'd be glad to talk with somebody offline about. But yeah, you're not out of the woods by any stretch on the home inspection, but it's certainly part of due diligence for any buyer.
Awesome. Well, JP, if you got 5 extra minutes, our guy Austin Henderson has joined us, and
yeah,
we can bring him in, ask him a couple questions. Austin, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great, guys. I'm sorry. I keep losing track of time with this thing. It's my apologies. I had the timer set, didn't go off. So
hey, no worries. No worries. We're glad you're able to join us now. We were just kind of talking about, how the teams had, extra time off, kind of in your open date right now is you got another 7 or 8 days until Kennesaw State. What's the schedule been like for you guys? And, have you been able to get a couple extra days off, maybe get some of those bumps and bruises healed up?
Yes, sir. Definitely. It's been a good schedule. We haven't honestly taken too much time off. We've been practicing pretty much every day except this weekend. We had Saturday and Sunday, which was a blessing. So got to take those 2 days off and just kind of, like you said, recuperate, get our bodies back. But then we hit the ground running on Monday and had a great practice today as well. A lot of competition between the inner squads, just working on ourselves and trying to better our team. And it's been really good. So yeah, competition's been high, and everybody's been making the plays that they can. So it's been a fun couple days.
Austin, I want to go back to the FIU game for just a second because take us a little bit. We always talk about being behind the curtain because, again, we like to think we know what's going on and what's going on the sideline and the mindset. But obviously, you're the one living it. But getting forced into overtime, not exactly something probably saw coming with the Panthers, but man, there was some fight in those guys for sure, without a doubt. But going into an overtime session like that, the 5th quarter, not just Flames quarter, but the 5th quarter, truly, what's kind of the mindset? How do you guys switch gears mentally, and especially when, again, in overtime in that particular case against FIU wasn't necessarily expected? What kind of mental gear switch goes on for you guys for the overtime?
Yeah, for sure. So. Yeah, great game. They had a hard fought battle, great team. And I think what kind of goes in our mind is every quarter we want to be Flames quarter, whether that's the first quarter, whether that's the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, or overtime. We want it to be Flames quarter. We want to dominate that quarter, have a great time, and execute our play. And so I think that's something that kind of we go into whatever is put on our plate. Let's attack it. Let's get after it. And let's go win this quarter, whatever it is. So I think it was, a great game for us to kind of show our grit, to show our tenacity there. I was over there on the sideline praying, God, give us a turnover. And the moment I looked up, before I could even finish the prayer, Christian Bodner, smoked the quarterback and we got the turnover. So praise the Lord for that. And not my prayer, but our execution and our team, dominating, doing what they need to when it needed to be done. So, yeah, great game.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Austin. The team's 5-0, right? And last year obviously had a tremendous season, 13-1, Fiesta Bowl. We've talked about it so much, but it feels like this year, at 5-0, at least those of us not in the locker room, we're kind of like the team doesn't feel like they've played very well, been inconsistent at times. Is it the same type of mood in the locker room? Do you guys feel like your best football still in front of you? And I know you're thankful to be 5-0 sitting here today, but do you feel like there's a lot left that you can kind of have room for growth moving forward?
Oh, most definitely. I think you kind of hit it on the head. Like, the reality is we're 5-0, and our best game is still to be out there to be played. We got a lot of playmakers who can make plays, who haven't, whether it be just how the game went or whatever the case may be, hasn't happened yet. There's been some things that just the game, momentum shifts and everything that we kind of just didn't knock the team out when we had the opportunity. So I think just finishing a whole game, putting together start to finish, actually embracing that Flames quarter mentality of each single quarter, we're going to go out, dominate this quarter. It's our quarter. We're going to, inflict our will upon the other team instead of sitting back and kind of testing the waters. Let's go make plays. Let's go make it happen. I think, like you said, our best football is out there to be played, and I'm excited to see it when it can come together. Our offense is a really good offense, a powerful offense with a lot of playmakers, and we just got to continue to execute the plays that are called and make the plays when they come our way. So that's all we can do, and we got a good defense. Hopefully that kind of touches on it a little bit, but yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head. Our best football is out there to be played. Let's go do it. This next opportunity, but be thankful for the 5-0 because, we're one of 11 teams with that. And, the mindset of content but never complacent is kind of what I've always tried to embrace in life is like, hey, we're going to be content with what God has blessed us with, but we got a lot more to do. We got a lot of work to keep putting in and a lot more that we can accomplish as a team one game at a time.
Austin, tell us real quick what you guys are starting to see on film with Kennesaw State. Obviously, that game prep is well underway now. What kind of things can we expect?
Yeah, we're going to have a great game plan. We've honestly been working on ourselves, these past couple of days. And just, hey, let's execute what we do, how we do it. And I think that's something that we're really focused on these past, 4 or 5 practices, whatever it's been, that are kind of extra, bye-week practices. We'll really dive into Kennesaw this upcoming tomorrow and the next day. But at the end of the day, we got to execute our stuff. We got to go out there, whatever teams, lined up against us, we got to do what we do and make the plays when they come our way. So I think it should be a fun game. I think it'll be an opportunity for us to go out and really show what we're about and let's go dominate. That's kind of my mentality with it. Like, we want to go out there and dominate and handle business. So, yeah.
Awesome.
John, I'm ready to dominate. You ready?
Yeah, let's go. Why we got to wait another week, right? Let's get out there tonight. But hey, Austin, appreciate your time, man, and enjoy the next few days, the extended rest, and we'll see you guys on the field down in Kennesaw.
Thank you. Sorry I was late, but I appreciate you guys letting me on.
All good. Thanks, JP. We'll see you next time.
You bet. Thanks, John.
What's going on, guys? This is Zach, and welcome back to your weekly Liberty Flames Sports Recap. Things got kicked off last week as Liberty football had their first midweek on the mountain game against FIU. The Flames won 31-24 in an overtime thriller, improving to 5-0 on the season and remaining unbeaten in Conference USA play. On Thursday, women's soccer defeated Sam Houston 1-0. Men's soccer fell to Western Illinois 1-0 for their first conference loss of the season. On Friday, field hockey got back on track with a 1-0 win over Villanova, while women's swim lost to Air Force but did defeat Omaha. That will be repeated on Saturday as the women swim would eventually lose to our Air Force again, a little closer score this time, but would defeat Omaha once again. Women's volleyball lost 3-2 to Kennesaw State. To conclude the week on Sunday, women's soccer defeated Louisiana Tech 2-0 to keep their win streak rolling. Volleyball would lose 3-1 to Kennesaw State, and men's soccer fell once again 1-0 to SIUE. We got a lot of things coming up next on the docket this week for the Liberty Flames Athletics. Women's tennis is competing in the ITA Atlantic Regional from the 17th to the 22nd, while men's tennis is competing in the Winston-Salem ITF 15K from the 14th to the 20th. On Thursday, men's soccer will look to get back on track as they face Eastern Illinois at 7 p.m. On Friday, field hockey will take on Quinnipiac. Women's volleyball will face Middle Tennessee. Women's swim will take on Tulane, and continue tennis as well. On Saturday, cross country will participate in the Roanoke Invitational or Pre-Nationals. They'll split up into two different meets there at 10:30 and 11 a.m. Women's swim will continue their meet at Tulane. Women's volleyball will face Middle Tennessee. Women's soccer will travel to Western Kentucky for a conference matchup. On Sunday, field hockey will take on Longwood. Women's soccer will face Southern Indiana. And women's tennis will conclude the day at the ITA Atlantic Region.
Hello. Well, I think Mr. Longshots is with us. Are you driving?
I don't have to answer that question.
well, just be safe, my guy. How things going for you?
Miserable. I haven't been this miserable on a Tuesday night since they used to force me to go to hall meetings and prayer groups. I've been at work for like 13 hours. I just sat in a line at Wendy's. Absolute amateur hour. I'm no free ads, but Wendy's, awful.
Did you get a Baconator or what'd you get?
No, the line was so long, I was like, just give me some nuggets and fries. I don't have time to deal with a specialized burger order, no tomatoes, no pickles. So I don't have time to deal with that. I was going to eat, but I was like, I can't eat, podcast drive, do all that. I'm basically here to make sure I don't get Wally pipped.
Well, we don't want you to spill those saucy nugs on that nice shirt you got on there.
I didn't get saucy nugs. I didn't get saucy nugs either. Just classic. And I'm not even going to eat them. I'm going to eat it at home. I'm going to sauce them up myself.
Well, anyways, we'll move on and look ahead to Kennesaw State. Appreciate
should be a fun one.
Appreciate.
Are you at a red light right now?
I'm at a red light.
Yeah.
so what are your early thoughts on the Owls, Mr. Longshots? Have you done an in-depth study of them yet?
Yeah, deep dive. They're 0-5. They have no wide receivers. They have a good kicker. And I'm stealing everything that you said in the group chat today, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's been a tough go of things for Kennesaw so far. They're 0-5. They lost 63-24 to Jack State last week, and their quarterback's thrown for 3 times the amount of interceptions as he does touchdowns. I think they're running for like less than 100 yards a game. Their offense is dead last in the country by a good margin. Their defense is if you want to say they're good spot, I mean, they're still 114th in the country. So it's been a tough go, CT. It's been a tough go for the Owls so far in the FBS era.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to talk too poorly about them after the way we talked about New Mexico State and the way that game went. But it's another team.
And whoever we played last week.
Yes. Yeah. FIU. I mean, FIU, I feel like is at least a tier above them. But yeah. Also, I think we need to call you driving long shots for the rest of the show. Kennesaw's offense they really struggled, to say the least. It's really interesting. One thing that when we made this graphic that I was surprised about, I didn't realize they've had the same head coach since they started in FCS. We saw them back in FCS, and they had an awesome triple option attack that we could not stop whatsoever. I don't really know why. I guess coordinators left and stuff, but they've completely abandoned that. But that would have been perfect for them coming up to FBS. Now as a result, their offense worst in the country in yards per play. passing offense, bottom 10 with the service academies while not running a triple option. Like it's just not good.
Yeah, they definitely they did have the triple option, but they've gone away from that here, and things aren't going too well for them. So we'll see if they ever make a switch back. But yeah, Brian Bohannon's been there since they started the program back in 2015, and they had really, like I said earlier, had become one of the top FCS teams, at least in the region. In the Big South, they were the team to beat once we moved out. It'll be interesting if they can get things going at the FBS level. But for us, I mean, this game is more about us, right? I mean, it's more about us. We're going to be 3+ touchdown favorites, I would assume, and on the road next Wednesday night. We highlighted 2 guys here as players to watch: Jamar Brown, linebacker, who had a great game last week, and Caden Salter, who I think he missed a few open receivers last week, and I'm looking forward to him, really taking his game to the next level. We saw a lot more rushing out of him last week against FIU, so I think we'll continue to see that as the year continues to progress. Long shots, what you got on our guy number 7?
Listen, I think this is going to be a great get-right game. Ride the momentum. I think when push comes to shove, we got a guy that's going to take over. We have multiple guys that between 7, Quentin Cooley, we need a first down. It's there. We need 3rd and 4, 4th and short. It's some of the most confident I've ever been in I'll throw the light on. I'm on the Parkway. Most confident I've been in any Liberty offense to pick up when there's a need. We've played a lot of close games this year, and there's never been that moment where I'm genuinely worried. Even when I woke up on my couch against New Mexico State, I'm like, they'll find a way to win. And that's a great characteristic for a team to have, that it seems like they believe as well, that they can come at any moment and get the win. I'm going to try not to let any road rage incidents take place while I'm behind the wheel. It's pretty quiet right now on the road. And yes, Bill, I am wearing a tie. I am a professional somehow. But no, I feel good. Caden, player to watch. Who's a defensive player?
Jamar Brown, the linebacker.
He was actually, had someone text me during the game. They were like, who's this number 9 kid? He was all in the backfield last week. Really great to see. I think that we're seeing a lot more names on the defensive side of the ball. There have been some injuries in the secondary, but I think our front 7 has really shown to be a big-time force in Conference USA play and in our season so far.
Well, long shots, do you want to tee up your favorite ad, and then after that we'll get to cash and tickets with CT?
Out of respect for Florida, normally I crack a joke. I have some fun with it, but I think that we definitely have to keep the state of Florida in our thoughts and prayers. I don't know how Leesburg was affected by the recent hurricane, but we're definitely praying for them and the rest of Florida. We know how great of a place Leesburg is, and we're hopeful that they can continue that going through the whole getting back to where they were at through the hurricane efforts.
It's real Florida. It's old Florida, and it's close to all of the Central Florida attractions. Crystal clear natural springs in one of the largest chain of lakes. The beautiful lakefront city of Leesburg offers the best in outdoor adventures, fishing, and quaint shops and restaurants on historic downtown Main Street. Come visit and see how welcoming a hometown city feels. Experience Leesburg the way Florida is meant to be.
Back. I'm back.
You are.
For the time being. I'm probably going to drive through a dead zone in approximately 3.5 minutes. Fantastic. So when I start to falter, when I start to lose connection, just roll with it, CT. You're the man. But it's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at what we got. We got a little midweek action.
Yes.
Nothing better.
I'll tee these up for you. Conference USA tonight, starting just a few minutes ago. We'll talk about it really quickly. Graphic is wrong. Louisiana Tech is about 11-point favorite over New Mexico State. Total at 50. What do you think is going to happen in that game?
I think there's going to be a lot of points.
Okay.
It's weekday games. Weird things happen. There's a lot of college football plays, blocked punts, returns, interceptions. Weird things happen. You look at Maction for years, got that reputation. Weird things happening. Hopeful Conference USA can get that reputation too, where just people tune in to watch some wild football. You don't know what's going to happen. As we get into conference play, I think we're going to start to see some closer games. I'm hopeful. So give me the over and the underdog.
Totally. Love it. I'm New Mexico State as well. Louisiana Tech, sure, they beat up on Middle Tennessee last week. They're still bottom of the barrel, in my opinion. So that's a lot of points for them to try to cover on their own. Western Kentucky at Sam Houston, massive game tomorrow night. Recommend every Flames fan to be watching that one if you don't have church or anything else going on. But John and I both like Sam Houston in this one. What are your thoughts there?
Sam Houston, they've been the darlings. And I'm not going to say we were the first to say it, but all summer long,
You're right there.
On social media, on the podcast, we're like, do not sleep on Sam Houston State. They lost a lot of close games last year. They brought a lot of talent back, and they have proven to be, like John said earlier, probably that number 2 team in Conference USA. And it's going to be interesting to see how, does Conference USA turn into that Pac-12 rest in peace? Well, not rest in peace, they're back, where they just beat up on each other and they eat their own, and it just turns into chaos, and there's tiebreakers, John probably knows. You might know. Is there a tiebreaker for Conference USA? Like, what does that look like? Obviously, head-to-head, but
maybe John can look it up and we could talk about it at the end, because I don't know what it is, but there has to be. In almost all the conferences there has to be now, because there's almost no divisions anymore.
Yeah, it's all
you
just
can even think about like that. I have no clue who's going to be in the conference championship because of those tiebreakers, and I think like in every league, teams are going to be beating up on each other. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting to see. Final game tomorrow night of this week of midweek Conference USA action. FIU at UTEP. FIU's 7-point favorites over them on the road. I like them to take care of business. I just think UTEP is right there at Kennesaw at the very bottom of the barrel. And FIU, we saw what they can do. I really like their quarterback, especially when he can run. UTEP does not have the tools to stop that right now. So give me FIU -7. You have anything there, long shots?
Not specifically. I am interested to see, did they set that line as an overreaction to the Liberty game? And we'll kind of see, are they a team that they're better than what I realize? So I wouldn't bet a game like this, because I do think that is a bit of an overinflation. I don't know how much the line has moved, what it opened up at. But as we've said, they're conference games, and we've seen firsthand where anything can happen. And not just in Conference USA, we're seeing that across the country, where the parity between teams are kind of bigger than ever. And I had this conversation, shout out my boy, Mr. Kennesaw. He's usually tuning in. We talked about that before the first game. He said there's going to be more parity in college football than ever before. And I think that is a fact. You see a team like Northern Illinois go and beat Notre Dame and then lose a couple weeks later to an in-conference. I forget who they lost to. That wasn't Ball State. They lost to
Northern Illinois.
Yeah. Whoever beat Notre Dame then lost. So we're seeing parity.
They lost to Buffalo.
Yeah, we're seeing it in the SEC, where South Carolina almost beat almost beat Missouri. It was Vandy beating Bama. And it really is I'm hitting every red light, which isn't a bad thing, but I'm almost home. So
sure.
I think that parity piece is going to trickle down to Conference USA as well, where I'd be kind of leaning to take some of those underdogs, because, as I said earlier, anything can happen in these weekday games.
Absolutely. I think another thing in the midweek games is, coaching can be a big difference in them, and how can your coach handle a short week of preparation as well. So that can be another thing. But before we move on, just quick status of the games tonight. Louisiana Tech, New Mexico State. still tied 0-0. That one just started. They're about 5 minutes
Yankee
in.
game, please.
Yankee game, I got you in a second. Well, let's do Conference USA first. Middle Tennessee up 7-2 with a minute left in the first half. Absolute barn burner there. And for the Yankees, they're up 3-1 right now, top of the fifth, but 1 out and bases loaded for Cleveland.
Not great.
But you're still up, so we'll see. But moving on to our plays for the weekend. You're in the dead zone for sure. So I'll start off. I'll talk about Louisiana Coastal, and I'll check back in if you're good in a second. So Louisiana, they're playing at Coastal, -4. That's something for me. I thought Coastal's schedule to start the year was pretty easy. They were going to look pretty strong, especially after that first game against Jacksonville State. And then I had it marked down that at the JMU game and after to go ahead and fading them. I think they're going to drop off, fall a lot more back down to earth. They think there could be a lot of value in the numbers fading them as they come back down. So Louisiana still, even after they lost their coach the other year to Florida and so on, they're still one of the top teams in the Sun Belt. I think they're going to continue to show up. And I think they're going to take care of business against Coastal. So give me Louisiana -4 to hit on Richie's. And if he comes back, I'll let him talk about it more. But he has Clemson -21 versus Virginia. Love that one as well. Virginia has looked kind of good at times this season. They've really shown up at times when maybe they didn't think so. But that Clemson defense is on another level, really demolishing everybody that's not named Georgia. And their offense is getting better and better. Cade Klubnik has looked really good as well. Surprisingly, a lot better than he did last year. So fully endorse long shots, Clemson -21. And I will say as well, I'm pretty sure long shots, not to jinx him, but long shots has not missed his favorite since maybe week 1. So if there's anything to like, Clemson -21 is a pretty good one. Upset alert. I'm going to go Maryland +230 at home against USC. USC, you would think it's probably a bounce back spot for them after that brutal late loss to Penn State. They're clearly a much better team than Maryland. They're much more on the level of the Penn States and probably the top 20 teams in the country. But USC has not won in the Central or Eastern time zones, I think, since 2014 or something like that. It's been 8 to 10 years. So until they prove otherwise, I'm going to keep on fading them. They couldn't even beat Minnesota on the road. And if they can't beat Minnesota, I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Maryland. So give me that value, +230 Maryland money line. In long shots, on the other hand, he went with a smaller one, Arizona State money line +120 at Cincinnati. Arizona State has looked really good all season. They've already cashed their win total on the season over. They won it when they won this past week. Their coach actually said it in his press conference after the game. He's like, "Hey, we cashed it over. Hopefully that makes some alumni happy. Anything that you won, go ahead, donate it back to our NIL collective." So if that happens with the Flames this year, maybe think about it for yourselves to maybe give some of that to Flames Rising. Shameless plug there. But Arizona State has looked really good. They've had a great rushing attack, and Cincinnati has really taken a step back since that playoff team they had a couple years ago, and now since joining the Big 12. So Arizona State money line, really like that one, +120 as well from long shots.
Hello.
There he is. Beautiful. You're at home. Do you have any thoughts? I hit on them for you, but do you have any thoughts on Clemson or Arizona State that you want to give?
I think Clemson might have turned the corner. They didn't look great that second half against Georgia, but outside of that, they've played pretty well. Yep. I think they're on a fast track to win the ACC. I don't think anyone's really stepped up to go there. A-State, I just think Maryland is bad. Watch them play. They are a bad football team.
They are.
Very bad. So A-State, they could be sneaky on the road. Oh, as I took Arizona against Cincinnati.
Yeah. Cincinnati hasn't been good either.
No, Cincinnati not good either. It's not like a super tough place to play. So Yeah, there's my Arizona. There's my thoughts.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's go points. You have Bama, Tennessee, probably the second best game of the week. On Saturday, Flames aren't playing, so be sure to tune into a couple games, one that we'll talk about in a second, and then this one as well. So you have Bama and Tennessee over.
Yeah, I think Bama's got a great offense. Tennessee's defense has been sneaky good this year compared to years past. But Nico, rough game last week for Tennessee. I think they could turn it around. Just Bama, Tennessee, I think they're both going to be just taking shots down the field.
Yeah.
We've seen Bama's got the offense. They can, when everything clicks, they could put up points against anyone. I could definitely see both teams into the 30s, which you're clear.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a super interesting game. It honestly has felt like these past two games, Bama's defense has been kind of broken. Pavia kind of broke them in a way, and South Carolina almost beat them. And in the same way, Nico and the Tennessee offense has looked broken the past 2 weeks as well. So it's really interesting to see, what's going to be maybe the changing force there. And that really could determine if the game's going to go over or under. But I think that the Tennessee offense bounces back as well. And it's crazy that to say, but the Tennessee offense might be bouncing back against Alabama, which is crazy to say, but it very much could be the case. I have New Mexico, Utah State over 78. And
it's got to be the highest of the week.
It's the highest of the season. It's the highest of since midway last season or something like that. And top 5 highest in the past 5 years or so.
Those are some Big 12 numbers.
I could not tell you. This it makes no sense.
None.
It's going to be an absolute battle to get that over. Kind of like it's going to be reminiscent of rooting for an Iowa under 34 or something like that. And it's just an absolute grind. You're just rooting for absolutely miserable football. You're getting it, but it's not fun. This one, I don't know how these teams are going to score over 78. Somehow that total's there, and I'm saying that it's there for a reason. So somehow crazy, these teams are both going to drop 50, and we're going to go over 78.
Yeah, it's kind of like a personal challenge. You see an over like that. Same way you see an under that's like 32. You just have to take it.
Yeah,
just out of principle.
The game of the week, Georgia, number 5 right now, at the number 1 team in the nation, Texas. Going to be an absolutely crazy game. Texas took care of business and handled Oklahoma in the Red River. So Texas is -4, and you like them this week.
I do. I've been on the Texas train for a while now. They didn't even look that great against Oklahoma.
No.
I think they left points on the field, but they're a complete team. I think that wide receiver from Alabama, I think he's coming back, but don't quote me on that. Mm-hmm. But I'm also cold. Last week was a debacle, so
sure.
Probably want to take Georgia this week.
No, and honestly, the number one reason I'm on Georgia is Texas historically has struggled so much in the game after the Red River. Now they haven't had a situation like this where a top 5 team and a perennial national title contender is coming into town. So maybe they're able to get up for 2 different games. But based off that, I think this is a game that Georgia can come in and win. I think Texas is the better team than Georgia, to be clear. But I think Georgia has the ability to take advantage of Texas coming down from those Red River, that massive rivalry and the emotions of that, and get a really solid win to make sure that they don't have 2 losses and get more on the line of will they be in the playoff at all or not. So I think this is a huge game for Georgia to make a statement. And so I'm going to take them +4 on the road at Texas.
Yep. Take Georgia.
Totally. So that being the case, I think we'll go to our next ad before we wrap it up. So I'll try to handle this one. Long shots, you normally do a great job, but I'll try to do it for tonight for us. So do you ever feel like your betting luck is as inconsistent as maybe coaches trying to decide if they're going to go for 2 at the end of the game to win the game, as we maybe saw with the Flames? If you feel like that's the case, then Better Bettors Coaching is here to change that. They specialize in transforming sports betting into a smarter, more profitable experience. With personalized coaching focused on smart bankroll management, disciplined betting habits, and data-driven strategies, they tailor everything to fit the goals that you may have with your sports investments. So if this interests you, go ahead, head over to betterbetterscoaching.com and sign up for a complimentary call today to talk about your goals and if they'd be a good service for you. So Better Betters Coaching. With the right coaching, winning consistently is not a gamble. Beautiful. And so now we're all back. John, I think the Flames, again, we have a whole nother week until the game takes place. But I'm excited for Flames football when we get back next Wednesday.
As Long Shot's tagline says, I'm confused when we play again. I don't know what day it is. It seems like it's been 2 weeks since we played and 2 more weeks till we play again. It's been quite a weird little month that we're in the midst of. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing us back out there and hoping we can start to hit on all strides and start to get some momentum going, positive momentum going in our direction. And Long Shots and I may disagree on this, but I think that Liberty, as slight as the chances may be, I still think the door is cracked for them to get into the playoffs. They have to go undefeated, like we said all along. App State is not as good as we thought they might have been, so losing that game doesn't hurt a ton. But there's some teams that have established themselves in the G5 that are well ahead of us right now. Yeah. I'm looking at Boise State, Army, Navy,
all right,
UNLV. Yeah, all 3 of those teams are ranked in the top 25. We're barely receiving votes. UNLV's already got the 2 P4 wins, and their loss to Syracuse is not a bad loss. And they still play Boise State here next week. So they could play their way back into it. Tulane's another team to keep an eye on. There's a couple one-loss teams in the Sun Belt to keep an eye on. So there's a lot of teams that are ahead of us right now. But if we can get things back on tracks, remember, you have to be a G5 conference champion. Yep. So you're only – if Liberty gets to that, which is a big if, we're one of 5 teams in the running. We're not going to have anybody from the MAC to worry about. So now you're down to 4. And then it's, we're one of those 4. So there's 3 others. So Sunbelt, I'm assuming they're going to end up beating each other up and have 2+, maybe 3+ losses. So then it comes down to the Mountain West and the AAC, which right now it looks like there's a team there that would take it above us. But crazy things happened last year. We'll need crazy things to happen again this year. So we have a very slight chance, but all we can do is worry about what's in front of us, win each week, look good doing it, get into some type of rhythm and consistency going. And we got 3 tough games left on the schedule. We got Jack State a week after Kennesaw, and then we conclude the season with Western Kentucky and Sam Houston. So this Conference USA race is going to be fun. Let's enjoy that, and then let's hope we can get to 11-0, and we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, I know I said it before that a year ago, beginning middle of October, we were kind of saying the same thing. We need things to happen, control we can control, and go from there. It is what it is. I hope I'm wrong. I didn't think we'd get in the playoffs last year, but not the playoffs, but I didn't think we'd get the New Year's 6th spot. I love being wrong because the outcome normally is a positive. John, not sure if you were listening. We talked about the tiebreaker. Do you know what the Conference USA tiebreaker entails? Obviously, head-to-head would be the first matchup, but if you have a situation where you get 3 teams that kind of cycled each other, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, I looked it up while you guys were talking about it, and if it's number 1 is the head-to-head, so if it's a two-way tiebreaker, it would be that because all 4 of us play each other. So that we'll take care of that. But if it's multiple teams, like 3 of us at 1 loss, which I could see happening, it first is tiebreaker is head-to-head. which you would probably have us all going 1-1. The next tiebreaker goes to the highest ranked CFP team, which I would assume none of us would even be ranked.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, if Liberty's got a loss, we're not going to be ranked.
That's very bold. That's very bold for Conference USA to have that as the number 2. Like, yeah, that's real cocky of them to say that we're going to have 2 teams ranked in the college football. Jay Dizzy is somewhere just losing his mind right now.
Hey, just for the job that you want. So.
Yeah. So that's the next one. Then after that, it goes to the highest average ranking based on 4 selected computer rankings. And there's a couple of them I don't even know what they are, but SP Plus for ESPN.
Turtle, get on that.
ESPN Strength of Record, SOR. KPI rankings, and then Sports Source. I never heard of Sports Source.
Hey, Strength of Record was one that we talked about a lot last year.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And so that's not bad, because we were like, hey, this actually shows Liberty's decent, when everybody else was like strength of schedule. So it is nice that they have that one in there.
Yeah, so it's an average of those 4 is what it would basically come down to. So
what was that last one again?
An average of 4 different computer rankings.
No, what was that last computer ranking?
Oh, Sports Source.
Fake.
Never heard of it.
Fake. I'm gonna see if I could create my own ranking system called Sports Source and see if I could trick Judy into using it. It's not the craziest thing in the world.
No, it's not. Make sure, and obviously you would have Liberty ranked significantly higher than the rest of the Conference USA teams.
It's gonna be like Texas, Bama, Georgia, Liberty. Like, people are like, whoa, wait a second here. Find some weird stat with like running plays and penalties and games that get delayed. Like, it would be something that gets us up at the top.
Rushing yards without Ashton Genty.
Yeah, rushing yards without that's a good one. I don't know if everybody else is watching on video. See that Longshot's video has frozen, and he's got a great picture right now. So make sure you're watching us on YouTube and check that out. But it's been a good show. Any final thoughts, guys?
Excited to watch Liberty play football again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say as well, I mean, games next Wednesday. So we have another Saturday free. Enjoy it. If you're doing stuff, if your family has plans, do that with them. Have a great time. But if you're not doing anything, watch some college football. Continue, as Flames fans, let's continue to educate ourselves with the world of college football, everything going on. Watch that Alabama-Tennessee game. Watch Texas and Georgia. Watch our group of 5 rivals for top spots. Like, watch Boise. Watch your Ashton Genty. It's unreal. Watch UNLV. Watch Army and Navy. They're incredible to watch right now.
Wagons.
So spend time with your family. Enjoy college football. There's so much more out there than just the Flames, no matter how much we love them. And then we get them next Wednesday. So can't wait.
Yep. Next 2 Wednesdays, we got Liberty football. And I got to think this is one of the probably the first ever Liberty football home game on a Wednesday night, which will be interesting. They're going to have a campus church at Williams Stadium on the 30th.
Maybe halftime show. Sorry, band.
Well, there you go. So,
Longshot,
you want to close us out?
Yeah, I apologize for being in and out. I just enjoy getting the opportunity to chat with you guys, read the comments, have some fun, talk about a team that we all love. As CT said, enjoy the weekend, spend some time with family, watch some college football, live it up. And as always, stay hydrated, stay blessed, stay fly. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.